Soaked to the skin, streaming with sweat, we move forward. We are through the barrage now. Here is Courcelles waiting for us. It's enveloped in a cloud of fire and smoke. It's indescribable. There are groups of wounded everywhere, making their way towards the rear. At every step, there's a dying man, or one who has just died. What a nightmare. And the attack, properly speaking, hasn't even begun. We still haven't reached the French lines. Captain Henri Desagneaux, 359th Infantry Regiment, 129th Infantry Division, French Army, Courcelles-Epayelle, June 11th, 1918. Hey folks, welcome to the Battles of the First World War podcast. Matz, Les Morts du Sergent Jules Héme. This is a short episode on a few loose threads that suddenly I could bring together. So I am a digital data pack rat. Online links, PDFs, digitized books. If it's remotely related to World War I and could be useful down the line, I'm saving it for another day. Here's a link to something that could be interesting later on, and here's a book that's cheap, so I'm picking it up in case someday I can reference it on the podcast. Here's a digitized book from the 1920s. I may not use it now or within the next 5 years, but it's there for when its time comes. It's like digital tsundoku with me, and each of these links and books and articles is a loose thread just hanging there waiting to be connected. Sometimes, though, your brain starts to compare those threads, or it remembers a related thread and starts to make connections for you. And suddenly, you have an idea for a quick podcast episode. There is a graphic and rather horrific photograph from the First World War that has been captioned incorrectly throughout the decades. I first came across it as a teenager reading a history of the entire Great War, and the photo was described as being taken during the Battle of Verdun. I was drawn to it as many of us can be drawn to photos of horrific carnage. Once you really see it, you don't forget it. On the French Forum Pages 1418 website, the photo has been attributed not only to Verdun, but the Somme and the Chemin des Dames too, as well as being labeled from 1916 or 1917. Well, thanks to a couple of threads on that Forum Pages 1418 site, a book on my shelf, and a link opened up during the writing for the Manger on the Matz podcast episode, we can now place that photograph accurately. We can even name one of the soldiers in it. The original plates were part of those stereoscopic images that were popular during the war. The photograph was taken in a sunken lane, and to me, what caught my eye immediately was the poilu looking back at the camera. He is a bit hunched over, dressed in his casque d'Adrien helmet, wearing his long coat, and carrying some of his web gear. He's looking back at the camera warily, and you could imagine he was wondering what someone was doing taking photographs at a time like then. Because a second after I saw him, my eyes widened out to take in the rest of the photograph. The sunken lane is a scene of horror. To the left or right of the poilu, depending on how the photo was printed, amongst gear of all sorts lay 4 or 5 dead Frenchmen piled like broken dolls along the road embankment. The poilu looking at the camera, look at his feet and you see another pair of boots by his side, another dead poilu. Further down the road, a group of 4 or 5 poilus stand against the embankment, with one looking up at the sky. Just beyond them, you see the legs of other dead Frenchmen. Across from this group, another dead Frenchman lays on the other side of the road. By now, your eye should be picking up a strange lump at the bottom of the photograph, and here is the true horror of it. In the foreground of the photo, away from the embankment and in the road, lies another dead French soldier. He is on his back, with his facial features, his closed eyes, his mustache, and his hand clearly visible. It is also clearly visible that both of his legs have been brutally severed at the upper thighs, and a closer look shows that the ground near the stumps of his legs has been soaked dark with blood. This is World War I. Recent posts on a WhatsApp group I'm part of gave me the link to the Forum Pages 1418 website, so many thanks to Alex Lyons, Nicholas Turcotte, and the others on there. I've kept the tab open on my browser for weeks since I first saw it, because I've both become the lots of open tabs guy, and I wanted to follow that rabbit hole someday. Well, during research for the Mongin on the Matz episode, I came across the website for the village of Courcelles-Epayelle, and on it was a photograph of an older gentleman who had visited that village for a very personal reason. So the threads came together, and in my head, the idea for this episode was born. The Forum Pages 1418 thread I saw on my WhatsApp thread was related to an earlier thread titled "A Well-Known Image with Several Captions, Identification." Mind you, a lot of this is machine translated by Google, so bear with me. Here, in 2008, a forum user named Laurent had requested the correct placement of the photo. He, too, had seen it captioned as being on several battlefields from the war. Other users wrote in, including a local expert, it seems, and the location of the photograph was identified as Courcelles village in the area of the Matz. The road was even specifically identified as the Chemin d'Enfer, Path of Hell, in the northeast corner of Courcelles. The local expert, a user named Tanker, whose name already tells me he's a great guy, went deep with his knowledge and shared it on the forum. Quote, "The story behind these photos is closely linked to that of the tank. I say these photos because there are 4. This first photo is upside down. As has been correctly stated, it was taken on June 11, 1918, around 1 p.m. in Courcelles-Epayelle, on the street in the northeast of the village, a street that has since been called Rue d'Enfer, Hell Street. To my knowledge, these 4 photos are not military photographs. The ECPA-D, French Army Historical Service, has a set of very poor quality ones. The unit or units hit by this artillery fire are not identifiable, no legible collar tabs, and during this phase of the fighting, soldiers from several regiments were fighting in Courcelles-Epayelle. The time the photos were taken is fairly precise because the time the tank was hit is given in the reports of the Saint-Chamond group engaged at Courcelles. One of the photos, the one with the body of the amputee soldier covered with a blanket, comes from Henri Desagnaux's book, whose account of these battles is quite remarkable. In the photo of the burning tank, the infantrymen are still alive. In the photo where the tank is no longer burning, the infantrymen have been cut down by artillery fire. The numbering of the bodies shows that these are the same men photographed from both ends of the road. Clearly, the photographer was lucky. A trench ran alongside the road. He may have been sheltered. The farm behind the tank, despite the intensity of the fighting, was only slightly damaged. One of its barns can be seen behind the tank. It is the house of the current mayor of Courcelles-Epayelle. The tank group was AS-36. The Saint-Chamond 62712 commanded by Sergent Paulet, belonged to the 3rd Battery. The tank was immobilized by a 77mm shell in its track. It was then hit by 3 more shells, which set it on fire. The gunner was killed, and the assistant tank commander was wounded." End quote. Again, this is all machine translated. Some internet searching using Courcelles and the date 11 June 1918 led to 3 of the 4 photos. Indeed, the first photo shows the silhouette of a burning Saint-Chamond tank at the end of the road, in the distance, and the poilus are huddling against the embankment. The poilus look tense, and several are pressing themselves against the embankment. One is looking at the cameraman, and close-ups reveal a mustached man. The second photo shows the Saint-Chamond tank again at the end of the road in the distance. The tank is no longer burning, so now you can make out the long roof of a barn some ways behind its wreckage. And now, most of the poilus in the photo are dead, strewn along the embankment. One man is still sitting up, his head drooping far too much to the side. His helmet has been knocked off and lays at his side. And then, the third photograph is that one described above, with the horrifically maimed poilu at the bottom of it. Henri Desagnaux's book, A French Soldier's War Diary, 1914 through 1918, is referenced above, and indeed, photo number 10 in its photo section shows the same road, but with the bodies of the legless soldier and the others along the embankment covered with blankets. The photograph is captioned, "The road into Courcelles, 12th June 1918, littered with the bodies of French soldiers." Desagnaux, whom we've covered before here on the podcast, was temporarily in command of the 5th Battalion, 359th Infantry Regiment in June 1918. As part of the 129th Infantry Division, he was part of Mongin's counterattack on the Matz on the 11th of June. The 129th was on the left of the French attack front. Desagnaux's account of the attack on Courcelles reveals just how chaotic things were on the ground that day. His account clashes rather sharply with the episode just done on the Matz, as you will see. Quote, 11 June. At 3 a.m., just when the companies are acquainted with their positions and the machine gunners in place, and with what difficulty in a night as dark as this, I receive an order to return immediately to Magnolet itself and to make my arrangements for an attack. What does this mean? Orders succeed each other. Everyone has to be regrouped. The men who are half asleep complain bitterly. They are fed up. It's so dark that we make little progress, no one recognizing the way. The cooks are hastily alerted. At 5 a.m., coffee is distributed. This makes all the difference, and at 6 a.m., the battalion is assembled on the road to Magnolet. No orders. I wait. At 7, the colonel sends for me. He is very excited and seems tired. In front of him, a map. With a finger, he explains that the whole division is going to form at the railway line near Tricot and at 9:45 proceed to attack Courcelles and Mortemer-Grandbois. 24 tanks will accompany us to Courcelles, where our lines are. The artillery preparation is to last half an hour. 5 divisions are cooperating in the attack under the command of General Mongin. And that's all. Nothing on paper, no other explanation. How the regiment is marching, its formation, the position occupied by my battalion, liaison with the right and left, nothing. The colonel seems overwhelmed, incapable of anything. Perhaps it's because there he won't be in his dugout and will have to accompany us? Scrap by scrap, I obtain from him the information I judge indispensable. The regiment, formed at Tricot behind the railway track, will advance with the 16th and 10th battalions in front, the 5th behind the 6th. It was in fact my battalion which was the last one at Mount Kemmel. Deployed formation, liaison on the right with the light infantry, chasseurs. On the left, nothing. We form the wing. The 297th is in reserve. Direction, Courcelles, then Mortemer. Time of attack, 9:45. That's all I can learn. It is 7:30. The regiment leaves Magnolet. We haven't been able to transmit our orders. The troops don't know what is expected of them. They have heard about the attack, but so what? It's 8 o'clock in the morning. The sun is climbing in the sky. One does not attack like this in broad daylight. To attack now? It's just not possible. When we attack normally, we proceed to our starting positions at night, form in the front line, to go over the top at daybreak. But an attack now? Impossible. It's broad daylight, and we are far from our lines. The division can't reach the departure point until midday. Silently, we march on, nevertheless aware of the serious nature of the situation. Enemy planes circle above, but it's misty, and they can't see us. On our way, we come across some artillery officers choosing a site, or some who have only just arrived. On seeing this, everyone is happier. Told you we won't attack. Guns aren't even there. Faces become brighter, but this gaiety doesn't last long. Can a soldier think for one moment that an attack without artillery is possible in 1918? No. Then the attack can only possibly take place tomorrow morning. Until then, all hopes are permissible. Time passes, however, and we arrive at the railway line at Tricot. The two leading battalions are already there, massed behind the track in an indescribable swarm. Everyone tries to find out what is happening. We transmit our orders to each other. The colonel is nowhere to be found. On the way, we shake hands. Rouby, Morel, Piquet, Maupin, Guidicelli. See you later, mates. Sheltered by a small hedge, I group my battalion in its turn behind the 6th, and I assemble my company officers. Order: the regiment is to attack at 9:45. Direction: Courcelles. Proceed towards the church steeple in the wake of the 6th Battalion. Important point: don't get stuck in Courcelles itself, but bypass it to the left. Munoz and Triat's companies in front, 500 meters behind the 6th Battalion. One squad of machine gunners accompanying each company. Juvenceau's company in the rear, outflanking towards the left. I am in the center of the battalion with the squad of machine gunners, my communications officers, my telephonists, stretcher bearers, and grenadiers. Once a few more detailed orders have been given, we inspect the terrain. The sun is up, the weather is glorious, the heat is going to be torrid. In front of us, fields. Nothing but fields. The corn is high and is a mass of golden ears. War has not passed through here yet. In the distance, 3 or 4 kilometers away, rises the church steeple of Courcelles, surrounded by green countryside, and further on the outline of the woods at Hollot and the dark silhouette of Mort. Our impression is that as soon as we cross the railway line, we shall be in full view of the enemy. The terrain is as flat as a billiard table. We still can't understand an attack in such conditions. It seems utter madness. But there's no time to palaver. The captains have gone to give their orders. It's 9:45. The regiment sets off noisily. At this moment, the tank officers arrive and put themselves at our disposal. 4 tanks are due to accompany my battalion. They will join me at Courcelles. The 6th and 10th battalions have left. It's our turn to go now. The companies set off in perfect order. It's wonderful. You would think yourself at maneuvers. But scarcely have we crossed the railway when the first shells splatter us with mud, and ahead of us, the leading battalions are submerged in smoke. The enemy has seen our movements and is firing for all he is worth. The whole plain is showered with 105s and 150s. We can clearly distinguish 3 successive barrages. And we have almost 4 kilometers to cover to reach Courcelles, where only then will we find the French lines. We think we must be dreaming. Is it possible that they have ordered the division to attack under such conditions? On we go, however, stopping occasionally to check on the men and to inspect the horizon. Nobody says a word. In front of us, a barrage is throwing up a wall of earth. How will we get through? The sun burns us with its rays. The German planes are above us. It seems such a long time since we left, but much has still to be done. We are in the thick of the barrage. Clods of earth are flying in all directions. Fire and smoke swirl around us. We hasten to cross this wall. Swear words ring out everywhere. Men stop, killed or wounded, but there is no stopping. We go on and on. We have to get through at any cost. A shell covers us with mud. We're through. The barrage is behind us. Pause to get our breath back. We have a quick swig. God, how dry our throats are. Everyone is streaming with perspiration and panting. In front of us, a few hundred meters away, there is another barrage of fire to cross. Where are the other companies? Toyats and Munoz are in front. They are going all right. The company on the flank is also visible in the distance. We move off again. We have difficulty in advancing through these huge cornfields, and from now on we do nothing but stumble across the wounded. They are abandoned here, amid the tall blades of corn, helpless. Those who can walk flee towards the rear. Those wounded in the leg, the stomach, or even more seriously patch themselves up while waiting for help. Help? When will it come? The regiment has moved on. Will they find them in these huge fields, lying among the tall corn? How many are going to end up dying through lack of attention and will rot where they fell? We advance, nevertheless, under the burning sun and the fire of the enemy. This firing grows fiercer. We have to cross the trenches of our second and third lines, then barbed wire entanglements. We climb over them, scratching and tearing our flesh, but on we go, ever faster. The steeple is still some way off, and we must get there. Second barrage. Halt. Breather. We shall have to get a move on. We are in a cloud of smoke. Yet again, the earth flies in all directions. The powder blinds us, and the shells make us dive for cover. Shouts, cries, and groans of the wounded. But it's forward we go. This is no time to stop. We fall, pick ourselves up, and move off again. We can't see a thing. It's crazy. Yet daylight reappears. The barrage is crossed. Stop. Quick count of the men. Some missing. Impossible to help these poor devils. The teams of stretcher bearers are disorganized now. The men have fallen and the stretchers have been abandoned on the way. What will happen further on? Yet, we are still not at our goal. The third barrage is there in front of us, waiting. To fall there, and not to have to think any more nor to see these devastated fields, the ever-pursuing bullets, the wounded croaking their last, and the dead who have writhed in vain. Come on, let's cast such thoughts aside. Onwards, the steeple is drawing nearer. Soon the village of Courcelles appears in a swirl of smoke, in a hurricane of fire. I would like to shout to my comrades up in front. Remember my advice, pass to the left. Above all, don't go straight into the village. Those who fall into this trap will be wiped out. The enemy has concentrated all its fire onto the surrounding area. One can see nothing but smoke, fire, and powder. 10:30. We have been advancing for 3/4 of an hour. The leading company's lines seem to be wavering. The outlines of the battalions are no longer distinguishable. The losses must be enormous. How will we reach our goal? The artillery seems to double in fury. The shells fall like hail. Soon the barrage is visible. But what is our artillery doing? We can't even hear anything passing over our heads. Are our guns even in place? And what would they fire with? Tiny little 75s, while the Boche are sending us 105s and 150s, and 210s are raining down on Courcelles? This day seems crazier and crazier, yet we advance, frightened and worn out as we are, hastening on, with the idea that the quicker we go, the sooner we shall reach our goal. Goal? Who knows what it is? We were told, direction Courcelles, then Mort, and then, do the big chiefs alone know what we are supposed to be doing? Certainly not, for to explain away this day of madness, they are to tell us afterward that the division was sacrificed, that its mission was to create a diversion, to stop the Boche at any price. to favor an attack by other divisions on Resson-sur-Matz. The third barrage stretches in front of us. We have summoned up our last ounce of strength and dash forward, heads down, seeing nothing, hearing nothing, with one idea in our minds: to get through and come out the other side. There is earth flying in all directions. We are showered with splinters, sulfur, slime. Men fall wounded, and suddenly an enormous psst, thump. A 150 has embedded itself in the ground beneath our feet. It happened so quickly that nobody even moved. Everyone thought that this was the end. The noise over, we look at each other. The shell has not exploded. We would have died there, 10 to 15 of us. It's unheard of. It didn't explode. We can't believe it. And in spite of the gunfire, we all go and gaze at the hole left by the projectile. It's so unbelievable that I feel around for it with my cane. It's there, all right, about a meter beneath the ground under our feet. So there's still some hope. Our turn won't come today. Soaked to the skin, streaming with sweat, we move forward. We are through the barrage now. Here is Courcelles waiting for us. It's enveloped in a cloud of fire and smoke. It's indescribable. There are groups of wounded everywhere, making their way toward the rear. At every step, there's a dying man, or one who has just died. What a nightmare. And the attack, properly speaking, hasn't even begun. We still haven't reached the French lines. As we approach them, we get caught in machine gun fire and the bullets whistle around us. At the very moment before reaching our trenches at Courcelles, there's a shout at my side. "Captain, I'm wounded." Pierre is on the ground, with blood pissing from his foot. He's got a machine gun bullet in the leg. He can't walk. What can I do? We have lost all our stretcher bearers. I have no one to carry him. We must keep up the advance. Yet he begs me, "Captain, don't leave me here." With difficulty, we drag him as far as the trench. It is 11 a.m. We get our breath back. The tanks are not here yet. Where are the leading battalions? Where are my companies? What has become of the officers and men in this terrible furnace? Should we carry on? First, we ought to regroup and regain some cohesion. The colonel is nowhere to be seen, and I can't find out a thing. Suddenly, a shout. The tanks. They are big Saint-Chamons, monstrous masses of iron, rumbling up the road in broad daylight. What a sight. The Boche concentrate all their guns upon them. It's a deluge of fire. Some are destroyed on the spot. Some are set on fire. Some stagger along, trying to reach the plain, only to be blown up further on. Others succeed in crossing the lines, only to be brought to a crushing halt 100 meters later. In a quarter of an hour, it's all over. This day will have cost us 37 out of the 40 tanks which were escorting the division. As soon as our tanks are no more, our attention turns to the sky. A swarm of German planes are attacking ours, about 10 in number. It's a massacre. The guns chatter. Our planes are outnumbered 10 to 1. 5 of ours are shot down immediately. We forget everything happening up front. With a lump in our throats, we watch these planes come crashing down in flames to the ground. Everyone is dismayed. The battle is so unequal that we feel like asking for pardon for our planes. We would like to shout out to them, "No, enough is enough. Go home. Don't try anymore. We, the infantry, will stay here. You can't do anything. There are too few of you. Go away." Finally, we at last examine our own position. We have piled into a dugout where there are men from the 49th, from the 39th, and the 18th Infantry Regiments. They, too, do not know where they are, what they are going to do, nor what they have in front of them. They came here by night to attack in the morning. They awaited their orders and are still waiting for them. While waiting, they saw us crossing the open plain, just as if we were at maneuvers. They witnessed the carnage of our troops and confirmed the madness of it all. But suddenly their officers, seeing me arrive with some men, run up to me. They have a typical southern French accent. "The Boche are hammering us. We have no ammunition. We're off. You are here. Stay." Ah, But have I to take orders from them? I send them politely back to their positions with a warning that if their men run away, I shall have them shot. Speechless, they rejoin their posts, but before long, there's a great commotion and a general free-for-all, with everyone running for his life. The officers shout to their men to come back, saying as they run past us that they too have no ammunition and are going. I can't help shouting back, "You southern cowards!" But in front of us, a black wave is surging. The Boche are attacking. 2 or 3 companies are advancing with bayonets fixed. I have no one on my left. We are going to be outflanked and overrun. Get your machine guns going. Automatic rifles. Fire here, all of you, in the name of God. Fire, fire, fire. Everyone has understood, and with the men that I have been able to regroup standing on the parapet, we fire away madly. Our rifles burn our hands, but we keep on firing, peppering the Boche with bullets. We see them being knocked down and fleeing back to their line in disorder. During all this time, Pierre has not stopped shouting to me, "Captain, don't let me be taken. I don't want to be a prisoner." Gosh, that was a close shave. We must reorganize ourselves. Will we have one moment's peace? Some troops join me and I organize the line. I have Pierre taken to a first aid post. Alas, he was carrying my food and drink. I haven't got a thing and I am dreadfully thirsty. But I have a good bunch of men around me. Men who, if you set them an example, would do anything for you. They give me a drink, water is very precious, biscuits, and some chocolate. I won't die of hunger. Time marches on, midday, 1 o'clock. The sun burns like fire. The artillery has concentrated its fire on Courcelles, which is in flames. At 2, the steeple collapses. The village and the surrounding area are devastated. What are we doing here? What are our orders? The colonel? Everyone is seeking the colonel. I have contacted the 6th and 10th battalions halted in front of Courcelles. My companies are in place. The 6th battalion is looking for the colonel. The 10th battalion is looking for the colonel, but he is nowhere to be found. We will shortly learn that on seeing the barrages, he took cover behind the railway line at Tricot. He will only come and join me later at 2 p.m. We get organized as best we can while awaiting our orders. The Boche are turning on the pressure, and we are fighting them back with grenades. My God, what a day. Soon we learn some sad news, brought by our communications messengers. It makes me very depressed. All the old uns of the regiment are no more. 2 hours ago I was shaking them by the hand. Now they are nothing more than hunks of flesh, carcasses which will probably rot in the sun. All this in an hour. It's brutal, terrifying. The hours pass slowly by. The colonel, found at last, sheltering in a dugout that the sappers have hastily built for him, sends us his orders. We will attack again at 8 p.m. How and where? Nobody knows. 12th June, 1918. Nothing is ready. Everyone is seeking his orders. It's one awful confusion. The officers are looking for their men, the men for their officers. Everyone has different orders, and no one knows what precisely he has to do. There are no more NCOs. The companies are reduced to 40 or 50 men. Towards evening, a new order. The attack is put off until tomorrow. The frontline battalions return to our positions to spend the night. Fresh rations? No question of it. How could the kitchens come out to us? We content ourselves by stocking up with grenades, cartridges, and weapons taken from the dead. When evening falls, we stay put, overwhelmed by this day and haunted by the frightful vision of the slaughter which is due to start again tomorrow. End quote. The next day, June 12th, Henri Desagneaux and his men missed an attack time that was later postponed, and he made his rounds at Courcelles. He wrote, quote, "I am at the northern end of the village. The road is littered with bodies. It's unbelievable. There's a blown-up tank which is lying across and blocking the road. Inside are 2 burnt corpses, black, unrecognizable. Further on, bunches of men, legs twisted and mangled, or with gaping holes in their bodies, their eyeballs dangling out of their sockets, half their jaws missing, with terror written all over them. We can't take them away. They are too numerous. Stretcher bearers are sorely needed, and the Boche don't give us a minute's peace. All we can do is cover them with lime and then with a sheet or a blanket. We pick them up in mounds, but there are still more and more of them. Soon, under the burning sun, the flies will have a feast, and the whole road will be nothing more than a cemetery of putrefying dead." End quote. This clearly lines up with the series of photos we've been talking about. But were those men dead on the road from the 359th? The thread link shared with me in the WhatsApp group is from late 2010 and is named 359th Infantry Regiment, Death of Sergent Jules Héme at Courcelles on June 11, 1918. Here, forum user Tanker writes about an exchange of emails that were helping identify the men in the famous photographs of Courcelles. Tanker wrote of a correspondent who provided the following testimony. Quote, "I only recently learned the exact location where my great-uncle Jules Héme was killed in 1918. Coming from a modest farming family, knowledge and memory gradually faded with the passing of older generations. Only my late father, born in 1912, had told me Uncle Jules had both legs severed by a shell. I still vividly remember him accompanying this with a sawing gesture, his hands slicing across his thighs. I had remained at that point until very recently." It was while doing research that led me to your forum that I learned my great-uncle was killed in the fighting at Courcelles. I obtained his service record and discovered he was a sergeant in the 359th Infantry Regiment. So you can imagine my emotion when I saw the photograph of his mutilated body, his thighs torn off. I remembered my father's gesture. Looking more closely at the photo, enlarging the image, I seemed to see a sergeant's stripe on his sleeve. No one has mentioned it before? Am I mistaken? Were stripes worn on the sleeve at that time? Many things seem to fit. Sergeant Jules Héme was killed in action on June 11, 1918, at Courcelles at Bailleul, and, according to family tradition, his legs were severed by shrapnel. End quote. In the photo of the legless soldier, the sleeve above his visible hand shows a stripe on the forearm, denoting that he was a sergeant. So, could this be Jules Héme? Jules Héme's death certificate, dated 1921, shows that he was a sergeant in the 359th Infantry Regiment and that he was killed on June 11, 1918, at Courcelles at Bailleul village in the Oise department. Cause of death is given as tué à l'ennemi, which translated literally means killed by the enemy, and appears to be the French equivalent of killed in action. These certificates never give the nature of how men died, so how Sergeant Héme's family knew how he died must have been provided by witness statements at one point or another. Forum user Tanker goes on in the thread to show a marked-up photo of where the Rue d'Enfer, or Hell Road, was, right at the northeast corner of Courcelles at Bailleul. Interestingly, there is a street in Courcelles named Rue d'Enfer today, per Google Maps, but it is not the actual road from World War I. Comparing the information provided in the forum thread with Google Maps, the Hell Road was actually Rue Grand Louis. It still only has the farm on the northeastern end as it did in 1918. It also has the embankments seen in the photos, although they look like they're not as tall and steep as they used to be. This is the road that Henri Desagneaux walked through and where his men covered up the bodies strewn everywhere. Tanker, the forum user, goes on to provide what to me seems like both confirmation and some doubt that the legless soldier was Jules Héme. In a reply post, he wrote, quote, "Reading the war diary of the 359th Infantry Regiment reveals that Sergeant Héme belonged to the 37th Company of the 10th Battalion. 1st Company of the 3rd Battalion of the 359th Infantry Regiment. For the attack on June 11, 1918, the 10th Battalion, positioned in the front line on the right flank of the regiment's formation, main line Tricot-Courcelles line, attacked with 2 companies in the lead. If the 37th Company was indeed the one on the right edge of the regiment's combat formation, Jules Héme's presence on the Rue d'Enfer, Hell Street, is perfectly logical. The soldiers around him could then be from his squad, and at least from his section or company. On June 11, 1918, the 37th Company suffered 25 killed, wounded, and missing. The dead or wounded in these photos may be among the soldiers of the 359th Infantry Regiment. For Jules Héme, the war diary is crossed out. Initially listed under wounded, information crossed out, he is ultimately counted among the missing. If it is indeed him, the blanket covering the body clearly shows that the sergeant with the severed legs was killed. It is unlikely that he would have been included among the missing." End quote. To confirm things, I looked up both Jules Héme's death certificate and the 359th JMO on the Mémoire des Hommes website. JMO stands for Journal de Marche et Opération, and it is the unit's war diary. There are long handwritten lists of casualties after each major operation, and Jules' name was in the list compiled after the attack on Courcelles. I did not see evidence of his name being struck through, only that he is listed as disparu, disappeared. In the final tally of losses from the Mongin counteroffensive in June 1918, there are no soldiers listed as missing, however. But from the position of his company in the attack on Courcelles, and it being logical that Sergeant Héme ended up on the Rue d'Enfer to shelter, the forum users on the thread seem satisfied that the dead soldier was indeed Jules Héme. For my part, it makes sense to me as well. In fact, in the second photograph of the 4-photo series, I think the poilu huddling against the embankment and looking back at the cameraman was him. It was Jules Héme. I could be wrong. Furthermore, confirmation that it was him shown dead in the photograph comes from the Courcelles-Epaille village website, where the photograph of an older gentleman who had visited that village for a very personal reason was posted in 2014. This photograph is captioned with, quote, "Visite le 7 juin 2014 de Monsieur François Clerc, parent de Jules Héme. Monsieur Clerc est venu de Franche-Comté pour se recueillir à l'endroit où a été trouvé son parent, le sergent Jules Héme, du 359e régiment d'infanterie, mort pour la France dans les combats à Courcelles." In English, that is, visit on June 7th, 2014, by Mr. François Clerc, relative of Jules Héme. Mr. Clerc came from Franche-Comté to pay his respects at the place where his relative, Sergeant Jules Héme, of the 359th Infantry Regiment, was killed, having died for France in the fighting at Courcelles. Jules Héme lies buried nearby at the French military cemetery in Mairie-la-Bataille, hours away from his home village of Voilin, in the Bourgogne-Franche-Comté region of eastern France. There, his name appears with those of 9 other men who also fell in the Great War on a small plaque outside the Mairie. Above the names from 1914 to 1918, a Paul Héme is listed as a casualty of the Second World War. Unfortunately, we do not know a lot about Jules and his life before the war, but we can keep his name and memory alive as we listen to this episode. We can also say his name, Jules Joseph Donat Héme, mort pour la France, 11 juin 1918. Questions, comments, or concerns, please don't hesitate to contact me at verdunpodcast@gmail.com. Get at me on Blue Sky at ww1podcast.bsky.social, and check out the BFWWP website firstworldwarpodcast.com. Thank you so much for listening. Talk to you again soon. Take care.